What's up, YouTube? This is Take 5 Podcast. Today's topic is top 5 bands that changed their sound for better or worse. All right, Dustin, what'd you have for number 5?
Well, I won't be one bit surprised if you have on somewhere on your list my number 5. But when they started out in the '90s, I liked all the stuff they did in the '90s. Then they progressed, changed their sound, and became a pretty fucking big band. a.f.i.
It's funny you said. I'm surprised. I didn't think you even liked them.
Oh, I loved all the '90s
Damn,
punk
that's
stuff.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
That,
What Nitro Records stuff? Yeah, all the Nitro Records stuff. Yeah. And they do an awesome cover of My Michelle by Guns N' Roses
yeah,
too.
they
So
do.
yeah.
I know you're
But
not big into punk. That's why I was kind of surprised.
yeah, I was hip to them back then in the '90s and like that style of punk for what I do like from punk. And my thing, we kind of we had dinner and we talked about my version of for better or worse is like if it just doesn't a band change, it's just not what I want from that band, whatever. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, way more people like a.f.i. in the past 20 years than what did in the '90s.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, a.f.i. they definitely progressed, whatever you want to call it, changed their sound, and a lot of bands. I think being someone who's been in bands, shit like that. I think it just happens with musicians, especially bands that have been at it for a lot of years. Obviously, not every band, but you kind of grow. I'm sounding cliche. Say you grow as a musician, or different people come into the band, which may have an influence in the sound, or then outright, there were record labels that just made fucking bands change their
Mhm.
sound.
Yeah.
That's usually when it drives away their real core fans. But um, so I'm not saying that I think necessarily that happened with a.f.i, but definitely is different. But so yeah, I'm into the Nitro record stuff, and after that, fell off with me.
Right on. All right. My number 5, a.f.i. um, let's see. The thing is, yeah, like I got into them a little bit later, but like not. And it was still before they got huge. I got into them on Black Cells of the Sunset record,
Okay.
and I remember I lived in Florida. There was this warehouse that had like punk rock shows all the time, and they used to play it all the time. And I
Mm,
and I never got to see them because I didn't know who they were yet. But I was into them. And then I remember when "Sing the Sorrow" came out, and I heard "Girls Not Gray" on like the radio, and I was like, "That sounds like Davey." Like, but it
yeah.
doesn't sound like a.f.i.'s music.
Yeah, he has a distinctive voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember this girl I was dating, like, she seen that video, and she fell in love with it. And I did not like that record for the longest time because it was so different. But I got where I loved it, and then I liked the one after that. But then they got to like goth, poppy. I didn't like later stuff, but like I held on to them for a while. They went through
Yeah.
a lot of changes, and I stuck with them for a while. But
Mhm.
like the last couple of records, I wasn't too crazy about.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm
I
surprised you
I'm
had
not
that.
100. Yeah, yeah. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure they played Bernie's back in the '90s.
Probably.
Yeah.
They were
'Cause-
playing like small ass places. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I finally got to see them a few years ago, and it wasn't the same. They didn't do any of the like early
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I saw him with Sick of It All probably 13 years ish ago
Let's see, that
at
would
the
have been
Newport. It was sold out. It was a mutual friend of ours had some guest list spots, so got me and the old wife wanted. She wanted to go. I
cool.
mean, well, we both did. I'm not. She was more into what a.f.i was doing, modern day a.f.i, but
Hmm.
wanted to see Sick of It All also. But yeah, sold out at the Newport. Yeah, we said
See,
that was less than 15 years ago.
it's weird. Yeah, say how do I not even remember that show? Because I seen them like 6 years ago at at I don't know what they call it now. LC Kemba or whatever it's called.
Yeah, yeah.
But they said I mean they were all right. They did some stuff off of that record, but I didn't. They didn't do any like the early stuff, which I like to have heard. All right. What'd you have for number four?
At number four, I got a band that who I caught on to pretty much from their beginnings, and I was into very into what they were doing in the beginning of the band, and they've definitely changed their sound over the year. They now have like their own signature sound of what they do now, but back in the mid 90s and even through the very early 2000s, I was all about Hatebreed, man.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I remember you loved Hatebreed.
yeah. So they definitely, sound changed um, to where, not exactly what I wanted me personally from, what I fell in love with that band in the
Hmm.
90s. Like I saw them on their second ever tour and they were touring out of a station wagon. That was like in 96.
See,
Um,
that's about when I seen them too. Like but I think I seen them like on the Ozfest, but they were like on the side stage or something, before
yeah,
but it was
that
around
probably would have been
96.
more like 98 when the Victory album came out. That Victory
Are you
album.
sure? Because like I was living in Ohio in '98, and I seen them when I was living in Florida.
Florida?
So I mean
Okay.
that '97 maybe.
Yeah, probably because I think it was the end of, yeah, because that Victory album didn't come out until I want to say the fall of 97.
Really?
So maybe they were on something that summer prior to the album
Yeah.
coming out. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe the Warp Tour. I think
yeah,
it might have been.
yeah,
Yeah, it was. That's what it was. The Warp Tour.
yeah, yeah. Because yeah, it definitely wasn't 96 because the first tour they ever did was in the spring of 96. And like I said, they were out in a station wagon doing that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that Victory Hatebreed album, they did some other 7 inches and songs on comps that all ended up being songs we recorded for, the Victory album. That Satisfaction is the Death of Desire.
Yeah, they
Um,
blew up on that record.
yeah. And then I did like uh the first major label thing they did. Then I really liked the one on that they did with the one record they did with Roadrunner Records. Which I hate it that we're getting old, bro.
I know.
The name of that album's escaping me right now, and I feel so fucking bad because my Frank Novinec was in the band by then, and me and Frank have been friends for over 20 years. But um, so there's been stuff that I've liked from them since that Victory album. I really did like that Roadrunner album is real fucking good. Um, but once again, man, just because I don't like it or it may not be my thing or what I want from a
Yeah.
band, I'm not going to hate on it, because clearly other people find appeal to it.
Yeah,
So
because they're still big.
yeah, but then,
Yeah.
like I said, also there's also bands that outright just sell the fuck out because of the record labels making them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Hatebreed did that, and I'm not even saying a.f.i did that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
I think
those are the
a.f.i
ones,
just evolved.
right, right, and that happens, and that's cool. But I think the bands that you can tell when like a record company or management and shit like that's like making a band change their style or whatever.
Yeah. They said I could be wrong on the year. I mean, because that was almost 30 years ago now. And what I
Yeah,
mean? It's like you said, we're getting old. But I
yeah,
do know I was in Florida and I believe it was on a Warp Tour. So it might have been
yeah,
98, but I was only lived in Florida from 95 to 98. So I know it was between that time.
yep.
All right. My number four it's funny because I got into this band pretty early, and like the first couple records before anybody even knew who they were. Then they released an album, I think, about maybe 1990 called Cowboys from Hell. And I hated it at first. Cause I was like, because I liked them when they were glam. I mean, they were still heavy when they were,
Yeah,
the glam, but they were, but they changed their look and everything eventually. But I remember when Cowboys from Hell came out, I'm like, man, that's not the same Pantera like that I used to listen to.
yeah,
But then when Vulgar came out, then it was a whole different story. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I was like, it was Vulgar was so good that it was like, it doesn't matter if this band's past.
yeah.
So even though I like the old stuff, like I mean, they changed for the good, and like even though I
Okay,
do
yeah,
like the old stuff, so it's kind of like, you know, kind of evens out, and that doesn't happen very often. Usually when bands change, it's usually not that good. But I like both eras.
yeah, yeah. I like that power metal album, the first one Phil did with him
Yeah.
before Cowboys from Hell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I've had to have told you when I saw Pantera in Dallas that summer of 1990,
Mm-hmm.
and I had no idea who they were then.
Yeah.
And my cousins that were living there, he was like, I was there for I was down in Dallas for like 3 weeks, and I was like, hey, I want to go see some bands, and he's like, well, hey, Pantera's playing at this place called the Basement, and Pantera was like the huge rock band of Dallas, like.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, cool, and similar like what you said, we went and saw them. I had no idea who they were. They were just talking about, yeah, we got this Cowboys from Hell album just came out. And my cousin hadn't even seen him. And he said like 2 or 3 years. And he was like, I don't remember this band sounding like this at all.
Yeah.
And same thing, people stage diving and, hits opening up, whole different thing.
Yeah. It was
So
crazy, like how much they changed.
yeah. So even he was even like, yeah, this isn't the same band like I saw 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. See, it's
Uh,
funny because my brother used to work with this guy who listened to nothing but underground stuff. I mean, like he didn't, you wouldn't catch him listening to like Poison or Bon Jovi. It was always like obscure stuff, and he'd always record me cassettes, like compilations of stuff. And Pantera was one of them. And I remember I couldn't find those early Pantera stuff anywhere. And out finding the cassettes, and the cassette was like $30 or something because it was so rare. When I
right.
finally
Yeah.
found them, it's like, and it's just funny, like yeah, like it was like totally different band.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's funny because some people don't even know about that early stuff.
Right. Sure.
Because I hear say, oh, like Pantera's first album, Cowboys from Hell. It's like that's not even the first one with Phil.
Right. Yeah.
They put out like 3 or 4 records out before that.
Yep. Yep.
All right, what you got for number three?
Number three. Well, I will say this though, man. I really did love that Cowboys from Hell album, and like I said, when I saw him that weekend, I remember the next day because Cowboys from Hell had just been released also, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was like, "You got to take me to a record store, and I got to get this." And whatever record store they took me to, like, was a big deal. It was a big deal there because they were a local band.
Yeah,
Got signed to a major label and were already like the Dallas rock band. So, I mean, that was cool, man. I love that. I love Vulgar, but I think Vulgar was the album when they really started defining their sound of what the rest of the world
yeah,
knows them for.
yeah. So like, I don't mind Cowboys from Hell now, but at the time I
Mhm.
didn't like it because I didn't like the change. Because
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
time, I was still into the glam stuff. I was kind of transitioning to other stuff, but it's like, and I don't know, I kind of felt like they were not what I was looking for.
right.
And that was kind of a thrashy record, and I'm not the
Hmm.
biggest into thrash.
Yeah,
But then Vulgar came out, and it had like a totally different sound. There was nothing like that record.
yep. I agree. Yep. But for my number three, I once again knew of this band early on before they got signed to a major label. And even their first major label release was different from what they became. And this band's been at it for same four guys for over 30 years now. Clutch, that early Clutch stuff is
Oh yeah.
completely different
Oh yeah.
up until the first that Transnational Speedway League record. After that is when they started what became what I feel like what Clutch is now and has
Yeah.
been. Yeah.
They wrote
Even
blues and
so,
stuff.
yes, and jam band like
Yeah.
kind of like a jam band kind of thing. But yeah, yeah. And I saw them at the Grog Shop in Cleveland when that Transnational Speedway League had come out. So crazy to say that I saw them at the fucking Grog Shop, in
Yeah. No
Cleveland.
shit.
You
Well,
know,
see, funny thing is with Clutch, like I like those early Clutch records too, but they were always hit or miss live. Like I remember I seen them once with Marilyn Manson. They opened up for Marilyn Manson, and they were just like you said, their jam band. They was up there. It sounded like they were doing band practice,
yeah, yeah,
20-minute, guitar solos and stuff. I was like, man, this is horrible. But
yep,
then I've seen them a few times, and after that, then I saw them at the Newport with Biohazard.
yeah,
And dude, they killed it that night. They played all the old shit, like Pile Driver and stuff.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man. And I was like, now this is the Clutch that I like,
yeah.
like so they were always hit or miss. But if you catch the right show, man,
Well, that Grog Shop show, I remember it being packed, and it was a good show, man. They good vibe, good energy, and I remember them playing real fucking late too. Like they didn't play until like seriously like 12:30. They yeah. Um so yeah, it was my number three, man, Clutch. And I dig the shit that they do to this day, I mean, so I guess they would be one that I feel like sound changed for the
mm-hmm.
better.
Yeah,
Um the drummer though, man, that dude, because I fuck with drums and the amazing drummer, man. That dude just lives drums. Like I've watched videos of that dude will have a completely separate drum set up in the back of their trailer that they like put all their shit in, and
mm-hmm.
he'll just play in the back of this trailer, completely different drum set than the one that he uses on stage.
Damn.
I mean, that's how much this dude is
Mm-hmm.
lives and breathes fucking playing drums, man.
Awesome. All right, my number three. This is a band that I think changed for the better. The earlier stuff was more of a metalcore type stuff, and I didn't get into them during that time. But Avenged Sevenfold,
Oh yeah, yeah.
like they're, I mean, going back, I like some of that stuff, but like when they started, how you can hear their Guns N' Roses and Metallica influences is the stuff I like better.
Hmm.
And like Nightmare is my favorite album by them, and that was like what their fourth or fifth record. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So like I thought they got better
yeah.
through time.
And
This
I
band
saw
you
them
never been
once.
really?
Yeah, and no, I wasn't really into them. You're right.
Yeah.
Actually, I know I've seen them a couple times, but the time I remember seeing them before, like you said, I don't even think they had a major record deal yet. Was when I lived up in Cleveland, and it was with 18 Visions, and then here I am not remembering shit, looking like a fucking idiot. The band that the one dude guitar player from 18 Visions did another band that he did vocals in. Do you know what band I'm talking about? And they had a female keyboard player.
I'm not sure.
I can't think of their band name, but Avenged Sevenfold was on that tour, so it might have been one of the first
Yeah.
few tours even Avenged Sevenfold did.
Well, it's funny because they have like hardcore and like punk rock roots.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, like
Yeah,
I listened to an interview with them Shadows, and he talks about like sick of it all, and
yeah,
vision of
of course.
disorder and shit. Like,
Yeah,
but I wasn't the biggest into metalcore because metalcore came out as kind of when I was transitioning again. I kind of every few years I kind of change my style. So I didn't really get into them, but when I heard the Guns N' Roses sound and stuff, I was like, man, these guys are pretty good.
And I might check out some of that stuff like that you said there. Like I said, I can't say I just didn't get into them.
Yeah.
Just didn't grab me enough to, yeah. But
A
there
lot of
may be
people
some stuff.
don't like his vocals. Like I love his vocals, but man, dude, their guitar player, man, and their drummer, like the one that passed, like dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, every drummer they've had. They had Portnoy for a while.
Yeah.
Then they
Yeah.
got what's his name? Played for like Bad Religion, Infectious Groove, Suicidal. You know what I'm talking about?
Um,
The famous drummer. I know you. I
yeah.
can't think
I
of his
think
name.
um,
I
whoever
mean,
watches this shit, you all got to forgive us, man.
yeah, we're
We're,
old.
we're fucking, I'm going to be hitting 50 next year. So,
I'm already there, so yeah. But
but
yeah,
Jimmy DeGrasso?
no, hold
No.
on.
Okay.
That's that.
Yeah. So it was 18 Visions Bleeding Through and Avenged Sevenfold. At like some place in Cleveland that like wasn't around long at all.
It's funny because I think cause I seen an interview with him recently. I think he was talking about because I know he was talking about 18 Vision, so I think he was talking about that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you went. I never even knew you seen them. I didn't see them till like 5 or 6 years ago for the first time. I went to Toledo to
And
see them.
I saw him on an Ozfest here in Columbus the same year actually that Hatebreed album that was on Roadrunner had come out. That they were both on the main stage of Ozfest that year.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's cool. All right, what you got for number two?
Number two, I got this band's sound changed a lot. And this is another band that I knew about and had a couple of their albums before the album that hit where they blew the fuck up is Whitesnake. Um, those early Whitesnake albums, I'm talking even before Slide It In,
Yeah, see, I
were
didn't like the earlier stuff.
yeah, they were like a British hard rock bluesy type thing, and I love it. I love that shit more than I like Slide It In. I like that self-titled that's the one that blew up the John Sykes era, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. Love that stuff, but even all the albums prior to that with Bernie Marsden playing guitar, Mickey Moody playing guitar, John Lord and Ian Pace from Deep Purple also, because everybody should know Coverdale was in Deep Purple for
Yeah.
a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Played on a few of those albums before Deep Purple even got back together in like the mid 80s.
Well, like a lot of their songs that they end up doing later were they redone. Like "Here I Go Again" was
Yeah.
redone. "Fool for
Yeah.
Your
Oh yeah.
Lovin'," like so some of them
Yeah.
songs were like I now I like the '87 version of "Here I Go Again" better,
Yeah.
but I like the original version of "Fool for Your Lovin'" better.
Okay. Yeah. I like that song too. The original. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I love that early Whitesnake, man. A neighborhood, a dude in the neighborhood that lived across the street from me. Me and all my buddies that skateboarded, we all had a crush on his sister. But he was into a lot of the rock bands of the 80s then, loved Van Halen. But he gave me a copy of Love Hunter on cassette, even like it was an imported version of it on cassette. And I remember he even got me into Cinderella, the night songs too. He was into that. But yeah, man, I love that early Whitesnake stuff. Love it. The Come and Get It album is the one is my favorite album. Then I would say Slide It In. Yeah.
yeah.
But
Sliding
you're
In was
right.
the first one.
They did re-record a couple hits they had prior that weren't hits in the US necessarily,
Yeah.
but they became hits here in the US.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the '87 version of Here Go Again was more poppy than the original, with all the extra keyboard. Then they end up doing another version, like a remix, and it was straight pop. Have you heard that? It's like
Probably,
it's
probably, but
not good at
like,
all, man. It's just straight
yeah,
up like a pop song.
yeah, that's probably why I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it wasn't good at all. And that just
yeah,
came out like within the last like 10 years or something. I was like, man, what the hell is this? It's horrible.
huh. Yeah.
That song got played out, but man, that was a good song, in '87.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah.
All right. My next two um changed for the worse. All right, my number two is this band started out as a punk band on Metal Blade.
Okay.
Then they got signed to Warner and became a pop rock band, the Goo Goo Dolls.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Those early Goo Goo Doll records, man, like
Yeah.
were good.
And I knew they were on Metal Blade because back when I worked at Media Play, remember we had those Metal Blade at the Goo Goo Doll stuff
Hmm.
then. And then when they blew up, I remember I was like, damn, this band was on Metal Blade. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like and don't sound like the same band like at
Yeah.
all. I
Right.
remember they
Right.
what was that song they got huge on. I can't even. There's like a
I I I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, it was like around '95, I think. And the record was
Yep.
Boy Named Goo, but I was like,
Yep.
man, what happened? I mean, this band was so good.
Yep.
But that might be one where they got signed to a major label and they probably got forced to like change their style.
Yeah.
They blew up
Could
after
very,
that.
yeah, probably on that one. I agree. Don't know it, but that
Yeah,
would seem like that's what happened. Yeah.
yeah. All right, what you got for number one?
Uh, so my number one is this will be talked about for the history of existence.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
This band, a lot of people might not think they changed their sound, but they dramatically changed their sound. From when I got hip to them in the, like 86, 87, just first discovering thrash, someone gave me a cassette copy of Master of Puppets. And I remember thinking, even hearing the, like, how does this guy play drums this fast? Hearing anything like that. So obviously, we're talking about Metallica.
Yeah,
Um, loved everything they did in the 80s. And then when the Black album came out, man, that was just completely different. And like I said, you will have people that will argue this completely different band,
yeah. You put
completely
like the
different.
Black Album or anything after that up to like play it against, like Master Puppets. Yeah, you'll hear a difference, man.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
a lot of the younger generation, they would or the mainstream, they got into them on the Black Album. So
Yeah.
to them, that's Metallica. But for us old fuckers,
Yeah.
it was already into them, and it's yeah,
Yeah. Well, I know that that Stranger Things show, that one of the last couple seasons that they did, one of the characters on that season played Master Puppets the song. And then I remember people acting like, oh, this, when did Metallica do this? What's this Metallica? Like, seriously?
and that's a big
Like,
song too. I mean, you
yeah.
think it,
I mean, people, they kind of like reignited the interest in Metallica of like Master of Puppets. Like, that, like, yeah. So that just says something about generational
yeah,
gaps, I guess, I mean, and like I say, man, if people, whoever is into what Metallica has done since the Black Album, if you're into that, you're into that. That's fine. It's not what I want from Metallica. And I also do this, man, every time Metallica comes out with a new album or a new song, I always have this fucking hope that it'll somehow be like what I want from Metallica. And I just don't think that's ever possible again.
I don't know that one record they came out. It wasn't too bad. They were back to like long songs and long guitar solos and I can't think of the name of the album, but
Death
the song
Magnetic.
was that might have been it.
Yeah, it's probably Death
Something's
Magnetic.
the day after tomorrow or something.
I think that's Death
Yeah,
Magnetic. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that song was pretty good. That kind of reminded me of almost like Justice for All. But yeah, it's still
Okay.
not as good. But I mean, compared to anything
Yeah.
he done before that, like
And a huge, huge part of it for me, and it's just my opinion. Once again, I'm never going to be that dude that shits on bands or any musician or whatever. Just because it's not what I like doesn't mean it's not good. But a huge part of the reason for me that I can't stomach Metallica much, newer Metallica, is because of Hetfield's vocals.
yeah.
Like I can't do it, man. It's yeah, just doesn't hit me.
See, the thing is it's funny because like rock fans are never happy. They'll say, "Oh, AC/DC put out the same record for 50 years," but then if they change, they put out more
Oh,
different. They're like, "Oh,
oh,
that
lose their
sucks."
minds. Yeah,
Yeah,
lose their
like
fucking
so.
minds. Yeah.
I mean, so on that point, like if Metallica would put out Master of Puppets for the next 30 years, people would have been like, "Oh, come on, man, he's on the same every record."
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where damned if I do, damned if I don't.
You're right.
Because they're like Slayer. Where it's like Slayer will put
Yep.
out the same record.
And a couple times they've done stuff a
Yeah,
little different.
and people got shit on them.
Yeah.
They did like a
Oh
new
yeah.
metal record. Like
Yep. 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 I agree.
all right, my number one. This band started out as kind of new metal, it's kind of funk metal, I guess. I remember seeing them when I was living in Florida at this little tiny bar. Um, I only knew one song at the time. The song was called Mean Machine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sugar Ray.
Yep. And
It
that
was
album, that song was yeah.
good, so
Yeah.
good. Like I remember, like I mean, it was this place was tiny and there was nobody there, and he
Similar
was
story.
yeah, and he was playing like he was in front of like 10,000 people. You know what I mean? Like I remember because Shane was down there visiting at the time, so he went and seen. I remember he was like, "Man, this guy thinks he's a rock star." And
Well,
then
I
here, next thing
saw
you know, a few years later,
they
he
were.
is
Yeah.
huge.
Well, I saw him on a Warp Tour, which had to been, I'm gonna say 97, maybe 98. And they played on one of those side stage like trailer
Mm-hmm.
stages, and similar thing. There might have been 15-ish people watching them.
That's funny. That's how it
And
was.
like you said, they were playing 50, these 15 people as if it were 15,000
Yeah,
people.
it's
Yeah.
funny because I seen System of Down like that on Ozfest one year. They were playing this small stage, and it was like
Did I
no,
say Ozfest or did I say Warp
no.
Tour?
You said Warp Tour,
Okay, yeah, it was Warp Tour. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But when I seen Sugar Ray, it was '95 because that's the year I moved
Okay.
down there, and Shane came down for that summer. So I mean, it was like early on. I had one song on the radio. Like I
Okay.
only knew that one song, and even that song I only heard a couple times. But the dudes I hung out with, they were always going to shows. I would just go to see whoever,
Yeah.
and then next thing you know, like they're blowing up, and they're like a big time like pop rock artist now. And
Yep.
he's been on like he was hosting like Inside Edition or some shit. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
became
Yeah.
like, and they were just little metal band, little tiny metal band, back in the day. Like that record was so good. Even Chad liked that record.
Yeah. Well, I was with Chad and I went to that Warp Tour, and he and I were two of the, like I said, 15-ish people even giving a
Yeah,
fuck they were playing.
yeah,
Like we were literally like standing 10 feet from them.
mm-hmm,
Like on it was a trailer
yeah.
that was the stage they were playing on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
It's crazy how you going to have go from Mean Machine and the next album was like Fly. It's
Right.
like
Yeah.
not the same, man. I'm not trying to shit on it because
Yeah.
they I mean they made change and they became huge. They were one of the biggest bands of the late '90s, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
it
Fuck
wasn't
yeah.
my style after that.
Yep. Well, same thing with Metallica. I mean, with that Black album, that was where Metallica has become arguably the biggest name in metal.
Oh yeah,
I mean, so similar thing, but yeah, that first Sugar Ray though, man, is good. Yeah,
yeah. I still rock it every now and then.
yeah.
All right, what you have for honorable mentions? I only had a couple.
I have about five-ish.
Okay,
Well, one of them's pretty easy that I'm surprised you didn't mention. Suicidal Tendencies.
honorable mention.
Okay, okay.
See, to me, that's a band that no matter what they did was good. So they changed for the better, but like they kind of them, and I'll go ahead and tell you. I only had two honorable mentions. I'll go ahead and tell you both of them because they're pretty much the same. Suicidal and Agnostic Front.
Yeah, yep,
They go
okay.
from they go from punk to metal to punk again. Like and
Crossover,
yeah,
yeah.
every genre they went through was good.
Oi, you
Yeah.
know.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so like it does, so they were reason I didn't have them on the list because like I said, it just everything they did was good.
Okay. I don't care for the funk style change. I want all the 80s albums, man. I want Join the Army. I want the
Mhm.
first record. I want How I Laugh Tomorrow.
Well, see,
I
but
that
then dude, that Freedom record in the late '90s,
yeah, that
dude,
was okay.
that was good. They went back to the whole punk sound. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, they were
kind
getting
of.
kind of
I agree.
funky. They should have
Yeah,
saved that for Infectious Grooves. I
I
mean,
agree. Yes.
but they were still pretty consistent for the most part.
Mm. So yeah, I had Suicidal, had Black Sabbath. I mean, Black Sabbath just had so many different people,
Yeah.
to where, yeah. And there's people that love all of it.
Hmm.
There's Sabbath fans that um Def Leppard, you know,
Yeah. I
any
almost had them.
all the stuff up to Pyromania is what I want from Def Leppard.
Hmm.
Hysteria on. There's some songs I like on Hysteria. But beyond that, just not what I want from Def Leppard.
It was it one that you hate. Was it Let's Get Rock? Is that the one?
Yeah, I don't like that one. Yeah.
You
Uh,
mentioned that on the show before. How yeah, that is a bad song.
yeah, yeah. Um, Kiss. Kiss
Yeah.
sound had changed,
Yeah, they always try to
clearly.
change with the times.
Yeah, they do. And it's worked. It's worked.
Sometimes, yeah.
Something, yeah. Um, the only other honorable mention I have is Rush. That first couple, at least first album, had a different drummer. And then when Neil Peart came into the band, that seemed to be when those three guys went the direction that I feel like defined the sound that is Rush. And I'm not saying I necessarily dislike um, a lot of that prog rock style stuff that they do.
Hmm.
We're amazing at it. But that first album, that first Rush album is, a rock album, man. Um, so yeah, those are the couple I had, couple honorable
I
mentions.
just thought a couple more. There's one we talked about last week, so we won't spend much time on it. But Motley Crue,
Yeah, oh,
yeah,
certainly. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Like another
certainly.
one we talked about earlier at dinner, Skid Row.
Yeah, yeah.
They've changed. Like they got super heavy for a while, and
Hmm.
then they got they kind of
Well,
was almost like a Goo Goo Dolls after that.
I think there's even a dramatic difference, my opinion, once again, between the first album and Slave to the Grind.
But yeah, as I said, they got heavy.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
um,
because I mean,
and
Slave
then
to the Grind was a
after that,
metal record.
it was, yeah, pretty fucking heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it had a lot of ballads, but man, like songs Slave to the Grind and Riot Act,
Hmm.
heavy shit.
Yep. But that's
Then
all I had for
yeah,
honorable
then
mention.
then you got like Bon Jovi who went super pop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
now this band, it's funny because there's something coming to my head now. But I know you didn't like the later stuff, but Cinderella changed a lot,
Yeah, they
and
did.
I
Yeah.
liked everything they done.
Yeah, they certainly did.
Yeah,
Um, and the thing of it is, I don't know really a whole lot of after Long Cold Winter. I know the album after was a Heartbreak Station.
yeah, that was super
Is that right?
bluesy. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I I don't. And once again, that was similar reasons with you, where I started, my attention started going to
Yeah.
other things music wise.
I see. I figured you like it because you like a lot of the bluesy rock.
I do, and I like Long Cold Winter, which I think is the same way, dramatically different from Night Songs.
Yeah.
Um,
And now when you can hear the transition, then you got that Heartbreak Station, which is full blues.
yeah,
Then like Faster Pussycat, they kind of went industrial. So there's a
definitely went
yeah,
industrial. Yeah,
yeah. All right, that's all I can think of on that. Well, you can even go way back to like Priest. They changed through the years.
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dayton when they got Dickinson.
Scorpions,
Yeah, Scorpions and 70s.
yeah,
Yeah, they were totally different.
yeah, with Uli John Roth in the band, it
Yeah,
was a whole different breed, man.
yeah.
Yep. And Nick said Maiden, yeah. Um,
Yeah, just bringing in Dickinson totally changed their sound.
mhm.
All right. Anything else on that?
Nah,
All right. Next album of the week, Dangerous Toys. It's the debut album by Texas hard rock band Dangerous Toys, released
yep,
in 1989 on Columbia Records. It
yep,
includes the singles Teasing and Pleasing and Scared.
yep.
It hit 65 on the US Billboard 200, certified gold, 500,000 records in the US. Now, when this first came out, the first song I heard was "Teasing and Pleasing," which wasn't bad. But when
Yep.
I heard the cassette, I didn't really like it at the time because I thought it was too much like Guns N' Roses. His voice, I thought it was too much like Axl. But
I
it
see why
grew
you
on
say
me.
that.
It grew on me, and I love it now. And
Yep,
"Scared" is such a great song. The ballad on there feels like a hammer's good. "Here Comes Trouble," "Sporting
yep,
Woody,"
yep.
"That
Tim
Dog."
Stomping, yeah, that
Yeah,
dog.
yeah,
Tim
all
Booth
those are good,
Stomping,
man.
yeah. Take Me Drunk,
Yeah,
yeah,
all those.
yeah, yeah. Solid album, man.
Yeah,
Same thing. I remember seeing the video for Teasin' Pleasin', and I was into it. Um, yeah, his vocal, like what you said, it was different. And I guess a lot of people could say like, oh, they were just trying to be a Guns N' Roses ripoff or whatever, but I don't believe that's true. That's that dude's vocal style.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah. I
mean,
mean, yeah, like I said at the time, well, because I mean, he even had the red hair. You know what I mean?
right, yeah,
But
skinny,
yeah,
yeah.
but like I said, eventually it grew on me. It was one of those records that took
Mhm.
me a few times to listen to, and I finally got into it. But I even
Yeah.
like some of their later stuff. Like
That
Pissed,
album,
Pissed was a good record.
it's got some okay stuff on it. Yeah.
Hellacious Acres had a couple good songs, but I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Pissed better than Hellacious Acres.
Hellacious.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, there's a song on Hellacious Acres, Gunfighter. Love that song, man. Um, but yeah, the first album, they recorded it like he's out in California at Sound City Studios. Sound City is a a lot of fucking awesome records came out of Sound City, and it was in Van Nuys, California, which is not it's a suburb of Los Angeles. It's Southern California. Um, I know Nirvana recorded Nevermind at Sound City. The Four Horsemen did, Nobody Said It Was Easy, Sound City. Guns N' Roses had recorded some Sound City versions of songs that ended up on Appetite for Destruction, but the recorded versions on Appetite for Destruction were done at a different studio. Um, Tom Petty, Sound City, did some stuff there. Really well known studio, man. Yeah. And I remember watching there was a documentary actually, and Dave Grohl, I think,
yeah.
kind of was the catalyst behind that documentary
Mm-hmm.
about Sound City and how the one of the big deal about it is they had Sound City had this the recording console was a Neve, and Neve is an actual guy is who would literally himself build these, soundboards. And there's just something about them that people wanted because of what they got out of that Neve sound. And in that documentary, Dave Grohl I may still own it, but he ended up with that Neve board. Um, so yeah, I wanted to make note of that too. Max Norman produced it. Um, Producers have a lot to do with how albums, a particular an album that they're producing, how it ends up sounding. And I hear a lot of interviews with dudes, in bands that'll, looking back and talking about particular albums of their career and being like, well, so and so produced that album and just didn't get out of us like what they wanted to sound like. Or but Max Norman had done some stuff with Ozzy, um produced some Ozzy stuff, produced some at least one Y&T record. Real well-known producer. So yeah, that was a big album for them, man, that first album.
Yeah, see, that's another band I think if they would have came out a year or two earlier, they would have been a lot bigger.
Yeah, yeah,
Because '89, that's when it was just it was kind of ending, and those
yeah.
bands at the time they were just kind of like it was all about the looks anymore. And
Hmm.
like I think if they would have came out around the same time Guns N' Roses did, they probably would have been huge.
Yep. But they got two, good albums out of it on Columbia.
Hmm.
The self-titled on Hellacious Acres.
Yeah,
Pissed wasn't on Columbia, but yeah, man, I'm seeing that video for Tease and Pleasing, and yeah, I had to have it. Had to have that cassette, man.
yeah. See, and I
Mhm.
love the dude's voice now. At that time, like I didn't like it, but like
Yeah. Well, I love that band Broken Teeth that he
yeah.
does
Hmm.
vocals for also, man.
Isn't he singing for Dirty Looks now, or
Yeah, he's
was?
doing. Yeah, they still do a show or two a year the past couple years, and yeah, he's been doing vocals. Yeah, yeah. I just saw the other day, like this, literally this week, that they're playing another show in Pennsylvania because that's where all the rest of the actual dudes from Dirty that were in the Dirty Looks band, I believe they all live
Hmm.
over in Pennsylvania. So
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
no, it was a good album though, man, to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I guess that's it. All
Yeah,
right. Thanks for
that's
watching. Hit
it.
like and subscribe. Five and
Yeah,
out.
5 and out.